Hello, students. Today I'm going to tell you what a great person once said to me. They said that you spend 80% of your time reading code and troubleshooting it, and 20% actually writing it. So today we're going to get into how to debug code. So this assignment, we have these two functions, and I don't want to do whatever that was. But the first one gives us a definition, and it's asking us to troubleshoot it, and we're doing the same with the second one, right? So we don't know what they're supposed to do, but we're going to try to figure it out. And the first thing I'm going to look at is the name of both my functions. The first one is called print number. So I'm assuming it's printing numbers, and it looks like it's printing a list of numbers. And then this second one right here is called swapping stars. Not entirely sure what it does, but it does look like a lab we worked on a couple days ago, and it's looking at, and I want my tooltips to not pop up, but it looks like it's trying to print something by looking at, twos and not twos. So in the sake of going in order, we're going to go ahead and start with this first one, def print numbers. For I in range 1, len list plus 1, print list I, numbers list equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm actually going to get rid of this for now, just so I can work on this. If I click and I run, one of my first steps for debugging is clicking and running, right? I just want to see what it does. And you can see here it starts at 2, goes to 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it says there's some kind of trace back. There's some kind of error message right here. I'm going to do two things. One, I think our error is pretty obvious. It's going to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, so it's never touching 1. And if we look at our for loop right here, it says for I in range 1, len list plus 1. So it's starting at the first index, or the 1 index, and it's going all the way to the length of the list plus 1 index, which in this case would be like list index 7. It never prints out 1, and it goes too far and tries to print out 1 after 6, which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't exist, right? So in order to fix this, we would go and we would put here 0, and we'd put our second thing at list len plus 1, and if we go ahead and run it, you can see that completely fixes it, and we go from 1 to 6. One thing I do want to teach you is if I undo the changes I've just made and I try to run again, you can see that I get this error right here. I get an error. And errors are sometimes deceptive because it's the interpreter, it's the editor trying to give you a message of what's going wrong. But that doesn't give you much, right? So here it says file, line 8 in module, there's an issue. So print numbers list, which is right here. And that's saying that this is kind of where it's starting off in the main function. It's trying to run this function, and then there's an error somewhere inside of it. Because then it says file, line 5 in print numbers. It's having an issue. And it's on list I right here. And then it says error, list index out of range. And what that's likely meaning is that it's trying to do something at some point where it's calling and it doesn't make any sense. And so that's, of course, why we changed this to 0. Well, we change this back 1, because remember, indexes or lists start at 0, and when we're trying to print, we're going all the way up to 7, and this list has no index 7. And the code's saying, hey, that doesn't make any sense. On the second thing that we're going to look at the function called swapping stars, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in right now. So I have, and I messed up. I printed the complete version that I use, but I need to print the one that you guys are going to start with. So here we go. We have def swapping stars, and you can see the way that it imported for me is a little bit funky. What I can do is I can fix it like this, and this is also meant to be indented, and then I also actually need to call the function. The first thing that I do when I'm looking at functions like this, they're short, they're readable, is just try to run it, right? So if I take out this and I try to run, it's going to run swapping stars, and you can see I get this really weird line up here. And I don't exactly know what swapping stars does, but I can take a guess and say that what swapping stars is trying to do is trying to go from star to stripe to star to stripe to star to stripe, right? And then it's trying to repeat. But as you can see, it doesn't repeat on every single one. On some of these, it doubles up, and it looks like it's doubling up on the 6th of each item, which would make sense if we look at our function right here, def swapping stars. We want to start with just a regular line string that we're going to use to print later on. You can see my editor is graciously highlighted that for me. And then I'm also doing a double for loop and printing or adding stuff to my line string in that double for loop. And then I'm printing down here. My first thing that I'm looking at is everything looks pretty normal, you know, just to give my opinion, just to see kind of what looks bad or what looks like it could be an issue. And I think this line speaks out to me the most because just thinking about our labs, you haven't really seen anything that looks like this, right? If line divisible by 2 is equal to character divisible by 2. You can see line is our outer loop variable and char is our inner loop variable. What I'm betting this is trying to do is something that was very similar to our previous labs, which we look and we see if one of our 2 outer loop variables is divisible or if it's even, right? What I think we could do, and I'm just going to take a guess here, char is my inside, and I want to see if that's even because it's going to go to 6 and then it's going to repeat. It should be the same every time. If I take this out right here, and then at the very end of this, I say equal to 0. So I want to see if char2 divisible by 2 comes out to 0, or we use that symbol to see what the remainder of something is. If I click and I run, you can see now I have stripes and stars printing properly. And so that was a little bit of an insight into debugging, which is, of course, a very important process inside of code. I can't emphasize that enough. And also the lab, the lesson 4.5. Thank you very much for tuning in today.